I love fish because they're so delicious. Probably shouldn't sing the whole thing. We'll get copyright strike. What happened to Jingles? You know, like that used to be like the go-to thing. I feel like we hear less and less of those.
No, I actually was talking with my wife about this. We actually have created a jingle engine. It's what TikTok is. Yeah. That's exactly right. So now instead of them co-opting real content, real creative music and so forth for that hook that they then wait for 20 years in order to get in the public domain, which they then shove into the zeitgeist using advertising to sell Tide Pods or whatever the hell. Now that itch is going away. Well, the mechanism by which we used to scratch that itch is going away. That was television, right? It's like, where's the beef? Like there's a million different catchphrases I could come up with that everyone in Gen X would know about, because we only had so many pieces of, we didn't have everything in the world available to us. We had like 7 channels that were worthy of us paying attention to. So they force fed us all that content. But now we're scratching that itch in 60-second videos on TikTok.
Or like 10-second videos.
It was Musical.ly to begin with. That's how it got a foothold.
Oh yeah,
right?
No, totally.
All right, very good. So I think we're live. I think we're sharing. I think everything's good.
No, everything's good. I mean, all we got to do left is sing the Oscar Mayer Wiener song, and we can get started here.
So welcome, SMUG people. Today is August 5th, 2022. We're all still here. The world hasn't ended yet. So we're going to talk about some SMUG stuff. Yeah. Adam, what are we talking about?
So I'll get into some small releases. We've basically had weekly releases all the way through the month of July. I'm also going to talk about the mobile 1.5 release. And we've got some big news. We mentioned it last month. We'll talk about the webinar here. But I think, honestly, the fun part to kind of get things kind of kicked off, anyone who watches the replay get that immediate value hook, is there was something we wanted to chat with you guys about kind of our journey through kind of learning some things, expanding our marketing department and things like that. So maybe, Joe, if you want to start talking about that, and then we'll get into some of the product updates.
Yeah, I'll try to keep this brief, but every once in a while I run into things that I wish I could do, that I then go seek someone who has more resources that may have had that same interest. It's not often, because I'm a scientist. I'm willing to maybe spend some capital to get some data that other people aren't. So it's when I do it, I feel like I should share, because I feel like it's valuable to you guys who pay attention to this stuff. I spent a lot of money in the last 6 months making sure we knew what we knew. If you're familiar with math and science, there's this concept called a checksum. Credit card's probably the best example. You can do an algorithm, some basic math that you can do in JavaScript on the client. So you don't have to go to a server and ask if the credit card is valid to raise the likelihood of the credit card being valid. The credit card number applied to the algorithm spits out some known result, right? And so that checksum is often missing in business. And here I am wondering, I heard a term about a year ago. It was demand generation specialist. That was a position. I didn't know such a position existed. So I kind of freaked out for a second. I'm like, if I don't know that, what else don't I know? And so I interviewed 22 Fortune 500 chief marketing officers. Long story about how that all came about. If you're interested, I can talk about it later. But lots of enlightenment came out of those conversations, including some things like, man, I'm looking for the silver bullet, but it might not exist. But I can't go moving forward without any stone unturned. I've gotta, while I can, make sure that we're doing everything we can to do everything we can. And so we spent over $100,000. We got a consulting company to work with us who works with Fortune 500 companies that came highly, highly recommended. We've got a specific individual appointed to us to be within our organization to serve this role as a chief marketing officer. We went through every strategy. We went through every channel, every marketing slot. We looked at the team and how we can structure that for now and in the future. We looked at campaigns that we were doing and stuff that we weren't doing. We also engaged in third-party consultants to go outside tech. And if you know me at all, you should go, oh, what? Wait, say that again. Joe got outside tech. Yeah. So we could have Kim come in and talk about how within 2 weeks of her starting, one of her first things was firing them because of the useless exercise that project was. She killed it, by the way. But the thing is, at the end of the day, it came down to this. There is no magic pull. There is no silver bullet. There is no thing that someone will tell you, that a partner will join you with, that somebody will back up a truckload of money that will suddenly make your business explode. Here's what will do that. Constant, consistent fundamentals, right? I played, I'm a big baseball guy, right? So getting your butt down is a thing, right? Ground balls. Get your butt down. It's all get your butt down, man. Is your website as good as it can be in your general SEO and Google rankings? Do you have a lead capture form that consistently moves data? Are you tracking your API so you know what campaigns you're firing off result in sales and jobs, not just lead acquisition, but actual sales and jobs? Do you know your margins and the KPIs that ServiceMonster gives you? Can you put that together end to end so that you know when you pull levers, which ones affect bottom line positively and which ones affect them negatively, and then dump capital into running A/B campaigns and trying a whole bunch of shit out? And at the end of the day, it's just connecting it all and listening to the basics and everything that's out there. Yes, generate content. Yes, make sure you've got good sites. Yes, make sure your ads and your landing pages are cohesive. Like, I can go on, right? I could just do an hour of just that, bullet points, giving you guys that are just the list of basics, but you know them. You pay for the coaches to tell you the same shit over and over again. They never feed you anything new, and then they blame you because you didn't do it. You didn't do what they said. Man, and Brandon Vaughn, notwithstanding, that group Conquer's totally different animal. So I'm gonna call them out for how good they are in the sea of ain't, right? So it's just get your butt down, guys. That's it. I could have literally burned that money and came out with that same, but I wouldn't have known. I wouldn't have known. The team wouldn't have known. Asher wouldn't have picked up the incredible amount of, it was a great education for him. We may not have found Kim when we did. So money well spent, but I am okay with spending treasure to get data, to know that I'm doing everything that I can go to the board of directors and say, yeah, man, we're doing it all. We're continuing to do it all, and now here's the new things that we are doing to move forward. So I wanted to share that with you guys because not everybody gets that opportunity, right? Not everybody gets that opportunity to like try an exercise to make sure they're not missing anything. So there you go. Get your butt down.
Yeah. And I think really the most important takeaway there, you kind of said right at the beginning, is make sure you guys are asking yourselves, like, what else don't I know? Because you could ask the smartest person in the world, like, however you measure it, there is one person on the world who is the smartest person, right? No one's going to know who that is because there's too many different ways you can measure that. But my point is, you're not going to know everything, right? There are experts in every single field who can, get down to the granular changes that you can potentially make it. And that's kind of what Joe's talking about, right? Like all of the basics, like the general things you understand, right? As long as you're doing them, right? But if you don't ask yourself, what else don't I know? And try to get into groups and find people that could maybe be like Conquer, for instance, if you feel like checking them out or someone else, then you're not necessarily going to know, right? And so that's exactly why Joe wanted to share this with you guys, because like I said, not everyone gets the opportunity to go through that, and we did come out a lot stronger at the other end. So
yeah, just again, it was a checksum, reaffirm okay, we're doing what we're doing, we know what we're doing, let's just do that harder. Let's just do that and get the blinders on and make sure we have enough resources, make sure we have enough checksums, and just go.
Yep.
So that's the phase we're into now. We're shifting gears now. And of course, we've got that coming with some fun products and prizes and an event to be kicked off August 25th. Sorry if I messed up your thing, but that's a perfect segue into the Empower webinar.
Yeah, Asher, why don't you hop in a little bit here and talk about that? Because I was going to mention that here in just a little bit, but this is a perfect segue. So
yeah, sorry for rolling the dice.
No, you're fine. It's great.
Yeah, so the Empower webinar is a really exciting set of new announcements and updates. I will be talking about a ton of new cool stuff for the mobile app, and finally self-service for Fill My Schedule, and a couple other great things. We'll also have Ryan Fenn, the CEO of Chirp, which I'm sure those of you active in the SMUG group have seen stuff about. It's a great new integration. They actually just released an amazing interview with a ServiceMonster user. So he'll be speaking. We have a bunch of giveaways. We're at over $4,000 in giveaway value going out just to the attendees who are going to be there. That's really exciting. You can win free months from a ton of our integration partners. You can win a big scholarship to a professional development course. Details are all coming for all of that stuff. If you want to be the first to know about those details, register as soon as I'm done talking. I will drop the link to register. Just fill it out. You'll get emails that update you as to all of the new stuff that's coming. We're also keeping it really tight. We're trying to keep it short so we don't waste your time. But it'll be good if you are there in person because you'll have a chance to win that stuff. And if you have a conflict and you can't make it, it will be available recorded after the fact. So we're excited to do it.
Yeah. And like always, we'll have, a Q&A session at the end. You guys will be able to ask Joe or myself anything you guys want. We'll do our best to answer. But yeah, no, super exciting stuff. I'll kind of segue into a little bit kind of what we're talking about there. Again, we're going to leave some stones unturned, so to speak, for the webinar itself. But mobile, we were going to have a smaller release in between these, but we're actually just going to roll it all out in what we're calling release 1.5. That actually worked out perfectly. I would love to say that I went back 3 years and planned our sub releases perfectly to make this happen. I can't give myself that much credit, but we did work it out pretty well. So the 1.5 release is going to have some of those things I already mentioned, right? The advanced debugging, the 1 day only view that we're adding. It's a new security role that basically is just the same technician and laborer roles. So everything else in the app is the same, but they can only see the current day. So if that's something you're concerned about, that's rolling out. And there's massive UI changes. So we've modernized the app throughout, and we'll be showcasing that on the webinar. There have been email editor improvements, and I don't mean like minor improvements. The entire thing's been overhauled. There's a lot of cool stuff that you'll be able to do on the email editor side that currently you cannot, including creating your own templates from the mobile app. They're very basic, but you can do so. And there's much, much more. We'll dive into all of that on the webinar. It also includes, we'll talk about a little bit the new SM Lite, which is more for new users coming in. It's very, very streamlined, cut down version for those who are kind of doing a gig economy work and things like that and just need something to house their data. So lots of exciting stuff that's coming there. On the desktop side, like Asher mentioned, we're going to be talking about the self-help FMS, which has been a project in the running for literally years. When the first kind of discussion of it happened was even before I kind of took over. So really excited to get that out. And that's going to be something that'll be growing over time. We want to make sure that users, whoever can benefit from Fill My Schedule is able to, basically, and being able to edit more of that on your own will stop kind of needing to, reach out to us to make minor edits and things like that, right? So we're really excited to get all that out to you. We'll be talking about that at the webinar, so please sign up, which I believe Asher will be linking. So with that said, what's been going on in the last few weeks? Like I said, kind of at the very top, we've been releasing kind of weekly updates. A lot of them are just kind of bug hotfix things, like getting some things over time just released out to you guys. We talked about it last time, and I showcased some of the changes that were coming, but the marketing expense, the 6655 release came out in the middle of July, has the new marketing expense process where you can go, it's much easier basically to add an expense. So if you've paid $200 for Google Ads, you can throw that in there, right, in your lead source. If you went to a trade show and want to just kind of know how much you spent on that over time and track your ROI, you can do that, right? And so it's much easier now. I showed that in the last SMUG. So maybe one thing we'll do is we'll add a little timestamp for anyone watching today if they want to see how that works. We also had a couple of follow-up releases. One of the things that we added was the new blank line button. And this actually, a couple of people were reached out to us right after where it's kind of asking what was going on. And so I'm actually just going to showcase this really quickly and show what I'm talking about and why we made the change. So to share my screen here, there actually used to be a button, if any longtime users remember, there used to be a button up here that it said something like add line items. And as you see, we have, an add items over here, which adds that's the bulk add line items dialog. So it's really confusing having both of those menu options or button options. All that was doing was adding a blank line at the bottom. So you could grow your order. If you had, 15 line items on here, you could continue growing it. All that functionality still exists. But what was happening is if you came into an order and had this many lines and you made a copy of it, or if you deleted the last row, like if I deleted this last row here, boom, I delete it. The auto line generation is very difficult to make it be smart enough to understand it needs to create a new blank line now. And that could also create kind of one of those weird situations, like basically a never-ending cycle, right? For a new user doesn't understand it. So what we wanted to do was make it so that it's super simple. When you're editing your current line items, you make any changes to a previous one, right? Like even just adding a space, like you see that I did there. If I start typing into this one, right? If I add anything into here manually, it's just going to keep growing automatically like it always has. We just put in a fail-safe. So for some reason you accidentally delete a bottom row or you make a copy of an order and now it just has, this, you always have the option down here to just add a new blank line and continue that path. And then again, once you start entering in information, it's going to auto fill that. So that's really all it is. It was really to help new users especially, but we wanted to make sure that people weren't caught in that kind of trap if they went through a very specific kind of set of steps, and hopefully it's less confusing for users. So stop the share there. There were also a bunch of bug fixes, like I mentioned. We made some UI changes on the online payment form. So like the invoice page, if you guys are more familiar with that term, the state and province fields were turned into dropdowns. We also made the expiration date field the dropdown for authorized.net users, just to help avoid little typos and something like that. If someone put in the wrong date or something like that, the dropdown just makes it very specific what they're selecting, right? So fix an issue with the contract. So Paul, if you're listening, I hope that I updated that post. If not, I'll punch myself. But we fixed an issue with the next billing date wasn't aligning with user expectations. And so we updated that. The audit timestamp now goes down to the second mark. So it's much more accurate. We also added some debugging tools on our end to help know when the audit, which app is making the change. So if it's coming through the API, if it's coming from 5, if it's coming from 6, if it's coming from the mobile app. So it's going to help us debug some things too. So, and there's much, much more. I'll always mention, remember the help release notes on our help website. Just go to help.servicemonster.net and go to the release notes. I'm sure Asher or Justin, someone can post that link in here while I'm chatting. Boom. So we've got mobile, we've got desktop. I want to take a moment to mention ServiceMonster Pay again. We're kind of getting that really kind of under our wings, getting comfortable with the data that's coming in, understanding our users, what they need. We're going to be continuing to expand that. One of the things I want to do later this month is kind of reach out to current users and see, what we can improve, what they like, so on and so forth, just kind of things of that nature. But for those of you who might be new and haven't heard about ServiceMonster Pay, it is a payment integration that is ServiceMonster branded. We've reached out and partnered with a payment provider to do this so that we can actually, have influence over the payment process. It's for US and Canadian users. We've got updated payment screens. We've got the ability for you to actually manage your payment methods and add payment methods without a charge. That's unique to ServiceMonster Pay. You can store those payment methods both on mobile and desktop. Currently, for the other providers, it's only on desktop because mobile has higher PCI compliance needs. So we had to kind of step through. It also allows for auto charge service contracts. It's currently the only payment provider that allows that. Allows you to customize which default payment method you have, and more. There's a whole page talks with ServiceMonster Pay, which we will also link. We're just going to be inundating you guys with links this episode, apparently. If you guys are curious, you can sign up in the marketplace. Application takes 5-10 minutes, and you can actually start charging pretty quickly if everything goes through. Otherwise, 1 to 3 days, your kind of standard bank turnaround if additional steps are needed. So
yes, and you can take both checks and credit cards.
Yes, can't believe I mentioned that. I forgot that one. Yes, there are ACH and direct debit payments if you want to go that route rather than a credit card.
Absolutely.
The only last thing I wanted to mention is some of you guys may have noticed, hasn't been every week, but we've had a few weekends over the last 6 weeks or so where we've done basically an hour or two of server maintenance on late Saturday night. So usually 11 p.m., midnight, somewhere around there. We've been notifying people on our brochure site, and our login page also has a little notification if any of you happen to be late night owls doing some late night work. But the final round should be occurring tomorrow. So this Saturday, August 6th, again, starting at 11. The downtime shouldn't be, we're listing an hour, but on a realistically, it's only going to be probably 20, 30 minutes at most. It's the final change that we have. And we could go into specifics. I think a lot of it would kind of make your guys' eyes glaze over, but basically we're getting on Amazon's new network, and it's been kind of a multiple stage process. So this is the final process, and we're excited. So it's going to give us additional capabilities and things we can look into towards the end of the year and into next. So
I'm excited to learn about that because I don't know anything about the new capabilities that it gives us.
Yeah, no, once it's all out, we'll sit down, you, me, and David, and we can talk about what's possible. Some of the ideas we've already, we'll just dangle that little fish out there. There's definitely some fun ideas that are potentially coming, by the way.
Yeah, this is all for my amusement, though. This has nothing to do with our clients.
So yeah, with that, I think we can kind of jump into SMUG unless any questions. I don't think any questions have come in. Yeah. So we had some really good stuff in SMUG this month. I actually had a hard time limiting it to only 3 or 4. I could have probably picked like 10 posts here if I really wanted to. And so definitely keep that coming, guys. We always appreciate your feedback and discussion. The first one came in at some point last week from January, and they were asking, or they were mentioning that, hey, I frequently click on a work order or an invoice number and I'm logged out of ServiceMonster. This is not after a lengthy period of time being logged in either. I just logged in this morning. Does this happen to anyone else? Which, by the way, that's a fantastic way to close off pretty much any question you guys ask, because it invites others to bring in rather than just sort of being a one-off support ticket. You're going to gather more steam behind that because we'll see that it's affecting more than one user.
Yeah, dog pile. That's effective.
No, it really is. It lets us know.
Crushes our soul.
It does do that a little bit too. But we are looking into it. This has actually been something that we've put out a number of potential fixes trying to alleviate some of this on the mobile side. We've solved some of that, but there's additional work that needs to be done there. But this caught me by surprise because this was happening in ServiceMonster 6, which is something I asked very specifically. And so we've done some testing over the last week. We've done direct API testing with what we call tokens. And again, I won't go into too specific, but it's how the login process works, how we know that you're an authorized user. And there's essentially a refresh process that should be working up to 7 days. Correct, Joe? That's right, 7 days. And so your original login token, as long as you're still you and still on the same computer and so on and so forth, should keep you in up to 7 days at a time. And right now, it looks like it's logging people out intermittently throughout the day. So it's not even lasting that 24-hour period. So we confirmed, like I said, that the token is still working. The token maintains just like we expect it to. The problem is somewhere most likely on the client. So
something is expiring the token prematurely.
Yep. So we're doing more debugging. I'm going to get Joe actually involved probably Monday or Tuesday next week with David and a few others, and we'll be continuing that path, see what we find. So
it would be nice if we can, figure this out, but maybe I need to go back to the mat and see if we can put some token protection in. We might be too loosey-goosey with our token termination, but let's not bore the audience with the details, shall we?
Yeah. No, the login stuff's interesting because you want to make sure that you have a secure platform, so that you guys are protecting your data, right? But some of that's going to rely on you guys, right? Making sure you're locking your screen when you walk away and things like that. We don't want to ever step too over into the line of, why am I logging in for the 6th time today? This makes no sense. So
I still really, at some point when we tackle security and roles, which is another thing that came up that I just liked, because we haven't been able to make any progress on roles, but it's something that's, we've always wanted to tackle. When we do that, the other security thing I want to do is really put it in your hands and give you a slider. And on one side, just basically have, stupid. And on the other side, have tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist, right? And so you've got the slider, like, where should you be? You're like, do you want to log in every 5 minutes? Or do you want to log in once for the rest of your life? like where do you on that slider would you like to put your security? And then let you guys have at it. And obviously there'll be a floor, because we have some liability. We can't just give you guys, let you open the keys to the castle without doing something. But
it's always a matter of finding where that line is, right? Making sure that you guys have what you want to succeed, but also sometimes protecting you guys from yourself. So.
And that might be different on different things too, right? Like your phones, like my phone's never out of my sight. I always want it on. I shouldn't have to log in but once a month. Done. And that's legit. That's a legitimate, process. Anyways.
Next one that came from Katie, and wanted to do a little bit of show and tell here for you guys. She'd asked, hi, is there any way we can use a data tag? We now call them merge fields, by the way. In an email template subject line, need the invoice number in subject line, please. So the answer to that is yes. And let me show you how. With our merge fields / data tags, whatever you want to call them, that's these things, these bracketed items here. And what that means is that when I send out this email, it's going to do what we call mail merge process. And it's going to figure out what this information is based on the account that you are sending. So if this is being Bob Smith, it would say, Dear Bob, right? I'm sure you guys are familiar with this throughout all kinds of email platforms. It's a fairly common process nowadays. So what you need to do is just, you can actually see on this template, which is a default, it has the company name already up in here. But you can use any merge field that's workable on this. You can put up in your subject line. So the easiest way to do it is to come down into your template, go into the advanced options here, which is where all the merge fields are housed, and they are grouped by what the merge fields attached to. So anything from the account, anything from the company. So this is your company settings. Anything from the order page specifically, anything from the site, which is going to be your address information, right? So like, let's say if I wanted the invoice number, which is what she was asking about, I would go to the order section and I would find the order number. I then have the merge field here, and I could then cut and paste right up here. So if you're not familiar with that, it's Control C is to copy, or Control X to cut, and Control V to paste. You can also use your mouse, right click, and go about that way. So that's probably the easiest way to go about doing this. We've also done something in the mobile app, which is going to make this even easier for you guys, where you could type the bracket here and it'll start basically pulling up a search of your merge fields. So we're excited to show that off at the webinar. But the point of it is, once you get the merge field in here, you can actually type these, by the way, too. I don't have to look it up. I could just say, hey, first name, but there's a downside to that, right? You need to make sure you don't have any typos. So hope that helps. Some common ones you can put up here are, right, your name, the company name, order number is a big one, like she said. Balance due is a big one I've seen used. Things you can throw in that subject line that just give a little bit more bite, so they know exactly what it is, right? It's not just a general term. Very good. The last post, before I throw this over to Joe for something here, came from Chris. And Chris was looking last week if someone could recommend a great call center that utilizes ServiceMonster. His current company is going to phase out as of September 1st, and preferred East Coast time zone starting at 8, which is important, right? Because if the West Coast, East Coast, in fact, we're dealing with that right now, right, Joe? We had an employee move over to the East, and it's allowed us to have some additional time for phone calls in the morning, right? Because there's a
difference there. Well, Michigan is in that weird land with the Midwest,
right?
It's a Midwest, but it's on the Eastern time zone, and I used to live there.
Isn't Michigan one of those things where it's like it's just as far east as Florida or something like that, and like you don't really think about it until you're looking at it on a map?
I never looked that up. I know that we've got some islands.
Just above the panhandle in Florida. And like your brain doesn't really think about that. At least mine doesn't when I think about the US, but yeah. Anywho.
Yep.
The point of it though is there's some great feedback came from a bunch of users. Paperclip was mentioned. They're on the West Coast, but Paperclip was mentioned. There was another, I'm blanking on the name of the other one, but there was also, I mentioned Pink Collars. They're actually in our marketplace. We've met the owner, amazing woman. And they have a more unique, and so this is kind of one of those things when you're looking at call centers, you need to kind of be looking at what they offer too. If you just want someone who's going to pick up the phone, offer, kind of a generic service for lack of a better term, and know how to work a CRM to put in that order, that's one level, right? You're just paying for them to be on the clock at that time. Pink Collars goes deeper, therefore they're more expensive, but they basically can create an office manager. They can create someone who's dedicated to working you through a lot of different potential office.
They're
jobs.
closer to super agents, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
But they can also do your billing as an add-on. They can do your HR work. They can help you hire.
Wow.
They can help. They can go really deep if you want them to.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good.
So you have options basically. So if you're interested, we can link we have Pink Collars in our marketplace. You can always take a look at them. And Paperclip is another one that was mentioned as well.
Yeah, Lupe, she came out of Pro's Choice call center that they tried way back, and she's doing very well.
Yeah,
lots of positivity coming from there, as long as you go in the proper mindset, right?
Right, and that's exactly what I meant. Like, what do you need? What are they going to offer? There's different different options out there, essentially. Right,
they're not going to replace you as an owner, but this will be better than a generic call center that just answers after hours and sends you an email. These people know the industry a little bit. They know how to sell. They can book jobs. So they're going to be better than the office people you hire, and you're going to pay a fraction of the cost. I often call this an easy win when you're trying to get off the truck, because what you want to do is you want to build your billable hours, right? You don't want to put someone in the office and spend the money there, although you need that office activity in order to grow and get off the truck. So you bring in a second technician, you start training them, and then you can offload some cash to an answering service like Paperclip and Pink Collars. So that's a good path to grow. And then of course you outgrow them. You try to put them out of business as quick as possible by leveraging them and your new tech and your equipment to get as many billable hours as you can, so that you can bring in people that you can then support.
Pretty sure we have a whole podcast episode about this. And
pretty sure we've done so much content related to this topic.
You know what we should do is Justin or Asher, as they're listening here, they should go dig that up, and they should think that. Just hypothetically.
Yeah, if you can find it. Because it also could be in our never before seen 10 show first episodes of Businessist.
No, it's one of the ones that we showed, I'm pretty sure.
Which is also coming, but we revamp on our blog site in order to kind of position that stuff to make it easy for you guys to find it, and find it based off your need. So we've also got plans for that, but that's a whole nother show.
It's a whole other show. Last thing I wanted to end with here is we had a couple of posts from Jordan and Alan. They've kind of been leading the charge on this, talking about rug care specifically, but talking about the Kanban and how that can work, and maybe some changes we can make that would really kind of bolster that whole side, particularly if you're doing in-house rug cleaning. Alan's actually reached out to me. We've had back and forth directly, and Jordan had an amazing post that he kind of added onto. So, Joe, do you kind of want to riff a little bit about that?
Yeah. So in the carpet cleaning industry specifically, I've had two long-term trajectories that I've never been able to close the gap on and hand you guys. Restoration, right? We've got a lot of people who do restoration work as well as carpet cleaning work. And there is no really good CRM in the restoration market. And now things are being bought up by insurance companies and whatnot. It's just a big mess up there. And, with a decent project management system, ServiceMonster would just crush it. Everybody knows that. And yet I have not been able to get that off the ground. Simultaneously, another thing that's been whispering in my ear, not nearly as much as restoration, obviously, in terms of target and demographic, but certainly in terms of clout, are the rug plants, right? I've got, there are people who use ServiceMonster for their rug plant, who are prominent rug plant people, but it's such you have to hack it right now with our Kanban board in order to get it to work. Nobody's really proud to say, yeah, ServiceMonster works great. It's more like, yeah, ServiceMonster gets the job done, but it could be so much more. So what's interesting is those two projects have a lot of similarities, like a lot of similarities. And we're listening to you, and we're listening to the differences. So don't get me wrong there. And you may have heard me mention this concept that we've called a new product called projects. So let me paint you a picture of like a year from now for ServiceMonster. We're about to release a new product, ServiceMonster Lite. The demographic there is the gig economy people, right? These are the Gen Zers who now are just, instead of Uber, they're like handymen, and they're, scrubbing rug, or, they're doing some house cleaning work. They need a easy scheduling and invoicing app, and they need it to be flat. They don't need what you guys need. They just need it to be super duper flat. They don't want to get on their computer. So bang, ServiceMonster Lite. There you go. You graduate from that when you become a real business to the first stage of the ServiceMonster CRM. So ServiceMonster CRM is what we produce now. It will be rebranded ServiceMonster CRM. And that's basically anybody who has jobs that are 1 day or less jobs. You go to site, residential or commercial, you do job, you leave. From that point forward, you invoice. ServiceMonster, there's nothing better than ServiceMonster for that process flow. If you have multiple days on your job, right, less effective. And then the more important those jobs are, subcontractors, coordination, connectivity between different people, if it doesn't work. It doesn't work to the same degree as, let's say a project management system would work, or systems that are built specifically for restoration. But this project modification and some other things that go along that we can then tack on long-term make a lot of sense. And so another product, we'll take ServiceMonster CRM, we're already doing it, and we're branching it off, and that will be called ServiceMonster Projects. And that will be geared toward if you have a service business where you go to residential or commercial properties and you spend multiple days there, and or you're doing in-house processing, which is interesting because it winds back to my old, I was an expediter for manufacturing, a subsidiary of Boeing, where it was my first business engineering role, where I was redefining how we process parts so that we could make them faster, more efficiently, less labor, less equipment, so on. And so this is exactly the same thing, because internally it's this internal process where things move from station to station. You've got to track where they go, the input and the output, who touched it, like what happened. So I get it. So it's going to be fun. And of course, like always, ServiceMonster doesn't do dates. So I have no idea when we're going to be able to assign resources and then promise a first release of this. But I can say that the first thing we will tackle is the process flow for in-house rug people. And I'm going to let the rug people have it first, way before it's ready for general consumption, because we haven't got all the other project stuffs out. Now, Adam's freaking out a little bit because now I'm making promises he wasn't really aware of, but he also knows how I am. So we're just going to roll with it. But I'm excited to get you guys this, because I don't think it would take a lot to get projects underway and do a base Kanban board like what you guys were talking about with some of the suggestions that you made, and call that check beta projects and let you guys have at it.
And no, a lot of that stuff is in my head, and sort of the general timeline. I mean, I was one who built the rug hack. So I mean, I've wanted to get you guys
you did
that for a while. So yeah. So anyways, that was kind of the show that I had. That's all the notes I had. I didn't see any questions or anything come in. So you want to kind of close the show off here, Joe?
yeah, we hope that you will join us at the Empower webinar. Lots of good things happening there. Other than that, yeah, just keep your head above water. Keep treading.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Hope everyone has a good end of their summer here. And we'll see you at that webinar.
Oh, yeah. School's starting soon, huh? For like regular folk. Oh, my gosh. All right, guys. Have a good one. See ya.